Nobody talks about what really happens after she walks away. Everyone focuses on the moment she leaves, the slammed door, the suitcase, the final argument. But that's not where the story ends. That's just the opening scene of a much darker, much more complicated movie playing out in her head long after the papers are signed and the tears dry. The brutal truth is this: when she walks away, she isn't walking into freedom. She's walking into a psychological minefield she doesn't even know exists. Right now, there are thousands of men sitting alone, scrolling through their ex's social media, staring at photos of her laughing with friends, drinking cocktails, traveling, posting captions about healing, new chapters, and how she finally chose herself. And those men are torturing themselves. They think she is thriving while they are broken. They think she is living her best life while they are struggling to breathe. They think she won and they lost. But what you see on a screen is not what is happening inside her head. When a woman walks away from a long-term relationship or a marriage, she is not just leaving a man. She is walking away from an entire mental universe built around him. For years, maybe decades, he was the silent reference point behind everything. Every decision, every emotion, every plan for the future had his shadow in it. Even when she was complaining about him, even when she felt resentful or distant, he was still the center of gravity. He was the axis around which her daily life spun. Then, overnight, she convinces herself she is weightless, no gravity, no anchor, just endless blue sky and possibility. Except that weightlessness is not freedom. It is disorientation. The first stage looks nothing like regret. In fact, it looks like the exact opposite. She wakes up feeling light, almost high on her own decision. There's a strange, intoxicating rush that comes from finally doing what she's been fantasizing about for months or years. She repaints the bedroom, throws away old photos, rearranges furniture, orders new bedding, buys clothes she always thought you wouldn't like, signs up for classes she never had time for. Her friends flood her with attention, telling her how proud they are that she finally chose herself, how brave she is, how strong. Every compliment becomes fuel. Every "you look so much happier" becomes proof. She collects those phrases like trophies and uses them to build a fortress around her choice. In her mind, she is the main character of a redemption story. She escaped. She broke free. She stepped into her power. She repeats these lines so often that they start to sound like truth.
During this phase, she isn't living in reality. She is living inside a story she wrote in her head long before she packed the suitcase. In that story, you were the weight holding her back, and freedom was waiting just beyond you. In that story, the problem wasn't life, or circumstances, or her own unresolved issues. The problem was you. Remove you, remove the problem. Simple. Except the human mind is never that simple. Weeks turn into a few months. The initial high starts to mellow. The new apartment or newly rearranged home doesn't feel so exciting anymore. The routines kick in, bills show up. The silence after work is louder. The nights feel longer. She still posts the same curated images online, but the emotional return on each post is a little weaker. The same compliments that once felt electric now feel repetitive. She has to post more to feel the same buzz. So she takes the next step. She starts actually dating. The first date or two can feel exciting. New faces, new stories. A man who doesn't know your shared history, doesn't know her worst moments, doesn't know her contradictions. On paper, some of these men seem like upgrades. Better job, better car, more polished, more charming up front. She tells herself, "See, this is what I was missing." But something feels off, and she doesn't say it out loud. Because this man doesn't know her, not really. He doesn't know her voice when she's half asleep. He doesn't know the way she panics when there's a storm. He doesn't know the dumb inside jokes about the neighbor's dog. He doesn't know that you were the one who always checked the doors at night because she never felt safe alone. To him, she is just another woman dressed up for dinner, trying to impress and be impressed. She feels like a stranger in her own life. Still, she pushes through the discomfort. Admitting doubt now would mean questioning everything. And questioning everything leads directly to the one thought she is not ready to face. Maybe I made a mistake. That thought is radioactive. She will do anything not to touch it. So she doubles down instead. More dates, more apps, more nights out, more photos, more distractions. She keeps performing the role of the woman who won, the woman who left the mediocre life behind, the woman who broke out of a cage. She can't stop now, because the people around her are invested in that storyline too. Her friends don't want to hear that she's scared. They want to hear that she's flourishing. They use her as proof that leaving is the brave choice. But underneath the noise, something else is happening. Her brain is quietly comparing.
It compares the way these new men talk about their exes with the way you used to avoid bad-mouthing anyone. It compares the way they treat waiters with the way you used to tip extra for good service. It compares the way they reach for her body with the way you used to reach for her hand. None of this is happening consciously at first. On the surface, she's still insisting to herself and others that you were the problem, that you weren't enough, that she outgrew the relationship, that she had to leave for her own sanity. But her subconscious doesn't care about narratives. It works off patterns. And the more patterns it sees, the more it realizes that the world outside the relationship doesn't operate the way she told herself it did. You weren't perfect. You had flaws, blind spots, weaknesses. But you were real. You were invested. You were there. You showed up. The new men are exciting for an hour, maybe a weekend, and then they disappear. Some ghost, some breadcrumb, some want only her body, some want entertainment, few want responsibility, almost none want the full weight of her life. Slowly, the contrast between fantasy and reality starts to form cracks in her mental story. She scrolls through old photos one night, by accident. She sees you holding the kids in the backyard, you cooking something in the kitchen, you asleep on the couch with the dog. These weren't perfect moments. There were bad days too. But those images are heavy with something the new life doesn't have. Continuity, history, safety, shared meaning. She quickly closes the album, tells herself it is just nostalgia, just her brain playing tricks. She reminds herself of every argument, every frustration, every time she felt unseen. She replays her grievances like a highlight reel, not to process them, but to defend herself against a growing sense that she traded something real for something imaginary. This is where the real psychological war begins. On one side, there is the identity she built, the strong woman who walked away, the heroine of her own story, the independent soul who refused to settle. On the other side, there is the quiet, gnawing awareness that the new world she stepped into is not what she hoped. The attention feels shallow, the options feel fake, the freedom feels empty. And deep inside, behind all the noise, a single question starts to whisper. What if leaving wasn't the beginning of a better life? What if it was the moment everything started to slowly fall apart? She won't let herself answer that yet, not in the beginning, not in the phase where she still has the energy to pretend. But that question is there, and the longer she lives in her new reality, the louder it will become. Because what really happens after she walks away isn't instant regret or instant bliss. It's something far more brutal. It's a long, slow collision between the fantasy she chased and the reality she cannot escape. What happens next isn't dramatic at first. There is no cinematic breakdown, no obvious crash. It starts in tiny, almost invisible ways, little glitches in the story she's been telling herself. At first, she's still running on the emotional momentum of her decision. She's busy in a way that feels like progress. New routines, new people, new places. She says yes to everything. Brunch with the girls, after-work drinks, yoga classes, weekend trips. Any moment alone with her thoughts feels dangerous, so she fills the silence with noise. But the high never lasts as long as she expected. The first shift usually comes on an ordinary day. Nothing big happens. Maybe she's sitting in her car outside a supermarket, scrolling through her phone. The same dating app notifications, the same "you're gorgeous" messages, the same compliments she used to drink like water. Except today, they don't feel like nourishment. They feel like sugar. Fast, empty, unsatisfying. She goes on another date. The guy is a catch by all modern standards. Decent job, decent car, decent conversation. He says all the lines that used to sweep her off her feet in her 20s. He leans in, tells her he hasn't felt this kind of chemistry in a long time. She laughs at his jokes at the right moments, plays along with the script. On the surface, it looks like a win. But something inside her is detached, watching. She notices how he keeps glancing over her shoulder whenever someone walks past, like he's always scanning for other possibilities. She notices the way he talks about his exes, all of them crazy, all of them problematic, never him. She notices how his eyes glaze only slightly when she says something serious, and how quickly he steers the conversation back to himself. She notices the way his hands linger a bit too long, how the entire evening feels like a setup for physical payoff rather than a genuine attempt to understand who she is. Driving home, she tells herself it was fine. Good, even. She posts a picture of her drink, a vague caption about new beginnings or choosing herself. Her friends respond with fire emojis, heart eyes, yes, queen. But when she gets home, takes off her makeup, and finally sits down in the quiet, the lingering feeling isn't excitement, it's emptiness. That's when the comparisons start slipping in uninvited. Not the romanticized daydreams at first, just small flashes. The way you used to listen fully when she was upset instead of checking your phone. The way you used to remember the minor details of her day. The way you knew how she liked her coffee without asking. The way you would make grocery runs without turning it into a performance. The way you showed up when someone in your family was sick. The way you handled the boring, unglamorous parts of life without complaint. She tries to shut the thought down, to remind herself of every annoying habit you had, every argument, every moment of disconnect. But the more she experiences the dating market out there, the more her brain starts to recalibrate what those flaws meant in context. You weren't perfect, you were present, and that alone, compared to what she's seeing now, starts to look rarer than she imagined. Around this time, the performance of happiness becomes harder to maintain. Her friends, who were thrilled to play supporting roles in the drama of her reinvention, start to drift back into their own lives. Married friends return to their routines and children. Single friends are busy chasing their own distractions. The group chats that once exploded with messages about her brave new chapter now go hours, sometimes days, without anyone checking in on her. The buzz of constant validation drops to a dull hum. If you have kids, their behavior often changes before she's ready to see why. They become clingier, moodier, angrier. Teachers mention they're more distracted. They act out in small ways, crying more at bedtime,
asking strange questions, pushing boundaries. She tells herself they're just adjusting, that kids are resilient, that they'll adapt. What she doesn't want to confront is that they didn't just lose a family structure, they lost the emotional certainty that came with it. They are grieving in their own way, and she is too busy trying to prove she's okay to fully register it. Meanwhile, she's exhausted. Not physically at first, but mentally. Exhausted from holding together two realities at the same time. The one she presents online and to her social circle, where she is glowing, thriving, free. And the one she lives in when the door closes and no one is watching, where she lies awake scrolling, replaying conversations, feeling something heavy and sharp pressing against her chest that she can't quite name. This is the point where the story she's been telling herself starts to require maintenance. She needs more and more external proof that she made the right choice. She pays extra attention when a man in her DMs tells her she's incredible. She clings to any sign of envy from other women. She mentally inflates minor inconveniences from the past into giant injustices just to justify what she did. That time you forgotten anniversary becomes evidence that you never cared. That argument 3 years ago becomes proof that you were never right for her. The more reality pushes back, the more aggressively she rewrites history. And yet, cracks keep showing. 6 months, 8 months, a year. Somewhere in that range, the thrill is gone. The dating apps feel like a chore, not an adventure. Every profile looks the same. Every conversation starts with the same recycled lines. Every man who seems different repeats the same patterns with enough time. She starts seeing the same faces she swiped past months ago, still circling, still searching. The market that once made her feel like a prize starts to make her feel like a product. She notices how often men disappear once they realize she has kids. She notices their discomfort when the topic of long-term commitment comes up. She notices that the men who want something serious either aren't her type or are incredibly rare. And those rare ones have options too, usually younger, less complicated, less scarred by previous relationships. Slowly, the brutal economics of her situation dawns on her. When she left, she believed she was stepping into an upgraded life, a world overflowing with possibilities. But the reality looks more like a clearance rack crowded with damaged inventory and mismatched expectations. The men she wants have leverage. The men who want her often do not. And even the good ones are trying to decide whether they want to inherit someone else's half-built life. In this environment, her self-image starts to wobble. She tells herself she is still the same woman who left, high value, strong, independent. But the choices she's making don't match that image. She tolerates red flags she would have raged about in her 20s. She entertains half-hearted men because fully invested ones are rare. She lets things slide to avoid being alone on yet another weekend. Outwardly, she calls it being more relaxed or not being so picky. Inwardly, she knows she is slowly lowering her standards piece by piece. And then there are the nights that hit the hardest.
Sunday nights are the worst. The world goes quiet, the kids are either with you or asleep. The group chats have gone still. There's no work to distract her, no plans, no noise. Just the hum of the fridge and the sound of her own breathing. That's when the truth creeps in, not with a shout, but with a whisper. This is it. This is my life now. Not the imagined version, not the fantasy, the real one. The apartment is too quiet, the bed is too big, the days blur together. The little inconveniences she never had to think about before now land directly on her. The bills, the repairs, the grocery bags carried alone, The decisions that used to be shared now rest entirely on her shoulders. During the day, she can still play the game, smile at coworkers, post a selfie, talk about focusing on her journey. But at night, especially the kind where fatigue wears down her defenses, the question appears again, clearer, sharper, louder. Did I really escape something terrible, or did I blow up something imperfect but real? Her brain fights this with everything it has, because admitting she might have made a catastrophic mistake would shatter the identity she built. She is the woman who left, the woman who chose herself, the woman who broke free. If that version of the story collapses, what is she left with? She does something almost all humans do when reality threatens their pride. She tries to find a third option. In that option, she wasn't wrong. Time just needs to pass. Things just need to align. The right man just hasn't shown up yet. She tells herself that one more season of healing, one more phase, one more wave of self-work will unlock the life she imagined. But every month that goes by without that breakthrough makes it harder to ignore that she may not have misjudged timing. She may have misjudged everything. This is the stage where you might start getting strange signals, a random message, a soft like on an old photo, a comment on a memory. Nothing direct at first, just small touches, little taps on the glass of your world. She's trying to see if the bridge is still there without admitting she wants to cross it. Because whether she admits it or not, you are still there in the back of her mind. Not the version of you she criticized when she left, the edited version her regret has slowly created. The version that remembers your stability more than your stubbornness, your loyalty more than your mistakes, your presence more than your flaws. She will fight this reframe, resist it, deny it, but her nervous system remembers safety, even if her ego doesn't. And safety is something the new world has not provided. By this point, her life is split in two, the external story and the internal reality. The more those two diverge, the more unstable she becomes. On the outside, she's still the woman who took control. On the inside, she is a woman who traded a real, if imperfect life for one that feels like an endless, empty audition. And she is just starting to realize that the applause she got at the beginning is not enough to carry her through the silence that follows. What happens after that is where the psychology turns from uncomfortable to brutal. Because sooner or later, she is forced to confront not just what she lost, but the fact that she chose to lose it. The collapse never comes with fireworks. It arrives quietly, on a night she never expects. Maybe after another dull date, maybe while scrolling through happy couples online, maybe while sitting alone in a spotless apartment that feels more like a hotel room than a home. And suddenly, the truth hits her with a force she can't ignore. She didn't just walk away from a man. She walked away from a life. Not a perfect life, but a real one. A life with routines, comfort, partnership, and a man who showed up even when things were hard. And now, as she dates men who disappear after 2 weeks, who want access but never commitment, who talk big but love small, she begins to understand the scale of what she traded. The silence in her home feels heavier. The bed feels bigger. The nights feel longer. The attention that once boosted her ego now feels empty. The dating apps feel repetitive. Every new man lacks something she didn't know she valued until it was gone. Stability, patience, consistency, history. And this is where regret turns sharp. She starts remembering the small things you used to do, the quiet gestures she never appreciated, the safety she once felt, the emotional space you created without bragging about it, the version of herself she could be with you. But the worst part isn't that she misses you.
It's that she misses who she was when she had a life with you. Just as she reaches peak regret, she sees you healing, growing, becoming stronger, becoming the man she always wanted, but without her. And that's the moment everything inside her breaks. Not because you're gone, but because she realizes you're no longer waiting. The brutal truth is simple. She only understood your value after she walked away, and by then the door had already closed.